Huh? Yeah. What needs to be gone? Why? Sorry, guys. I want to make sure everything was fine. Sorry for the disruption, especially during the meditation, but we'll just start with the chapter here in just a few minutes, once I know a few more people are in here that want to be. See, I restart and I got 65 people in here. You just never know what TikTok's gonna do. Welcome in, guys. Welcome to the morning lives. Hope everybody's having a good Friday so far. Thank you for the follow. Oh, and it's Friday the 13th.
No wonder I'm feeling that.
Because it's Friday the 13th?
Yes.
Why? What's...
It just is.
I don't answer yes no questions in the morning or do any readings. That's exclusively in my evening lives. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. He did? Congratulations.
Someone proposed?
No. Pretty close to it, though.
Did you file divorce papers?
How's that close to proposal?
It's very close. It's the fucking first beginning. It's the first step of the fucking divorce.
What is wrong with you?
Like starting a new job on Friday, you know, it's great.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday the 13th.
You doing, cat? Crazy fucker. Yeah, you're the fucking...
Hi, Morgan. I don't answer yes no questions in the morning, sweetheart. That's exclusively on my evening streams. Hopefully I will be on tonight. My daughter has a basketball game, so if I do make it, it's probably going to be a little later than usual. Yeah. Yeah. Hers starts around 5:30.
Your boys game too?
JV boys, varsity girls, and then a scrimmage, and then varsity boys. How are you this morning, Morgan?
I like to get a fucking letter sent on Jack for.
We'll get there. You don't have it here anyways. She's got it.
I know, but still, just fucking thing kicked my fucking ass last night.
Justin had some issues with the sewing machine.
Fucking, it's not right where I have this fucking fucking nail my fucking thumb toy. Bullshit.
Rory, what are you doing?
She's crazy. I like her mom. Upside down and everything. Get it. Get it.
Welcome in, guys. Sorry for the late and disrupted live so far between phone calls and just being late. But hey, it's Friday. It's Friday the 13th. Be prepared for anything. But today we'll be starting on chapter 2 of Badass Habits by Jen Sincero. And this one's called Healthy Boundaries. The Unsung Heroes of Successful Habits. So, I'll begin that. There's Indigo. Sorry about the disruption. Gotta love when it's Friday the 13th, so we need to expect the unexpected today. You should expect the unexpected every day, but good things. Always expect good things. So, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Alright, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get started with the chapter. Again, this chapter is called Healthy Boundaries, the Unsung Hero of Successful Habits. I grew up in a suburban neighborhood that was teeming with kids more or less my own age. We had trees to climb, woods to build forts in, backyards with swing sets, and a steep incline at the top of our street that was excellent for riding a bike or a skateboard down at alarmingly high speeds. One late summer afternoon when I was about 5 years old, a bunch of us were outside playing when Charles, my 4-year-old next-door neighbor, decided to ride his bike down the hill all on his own and see how fast he could go. I don't remember watching him walk to the top of the street or seeing him come down the hill. What I do remember is the part where his tire hit a rock, his bike flew out from under him, and he traveled a good 6 feet along the road on his face. Everything after that happened in slow motion. All of us kids screaming and running up the road towards our fallen friend. Charles peeling himself off the ground, his face slowly erupting into a bloody, slobbery howl. And our babysitter, Janet, probably only 13 herself, with her skinny arms flailing all over the place, grabbing Charles and yelling, "Jennifer, go get his parents." The parents were all at a cocktail party down the street at the Haynes' house, gathered together on the giant screened-in porch, sipping gin and tonics and luxuriating in their temporarily child-free status. I ran all the way there but slowed to an unenthusiastic stroll as I approached the house, realizing with terror that I was about to walk into a room full of adults. I made my way around the side of the house to the dreaded porch, fully hidden from view thanks to the fact that it sat high off the ground. Peeking inside, all I could see was a sea of legs, so many legs, of so many grown-ups, who would all stop talking and stare at me when I climbed up the 3 big concrete steps, made my surprise entrance, and stammered out my news. I was terrified of being in the spotlight, terrified of getting in trouble for playing in the street, terrified of grown-ups in general. So I reached up from my hiding place next to the steps and knocked ever so inaudibly on the very bottom corner of the screen door. Then I turned and ran all the way to my house, got into my bed, and tried to conjure up the stomach ache that I was prepared to fake the second my parents got home. This is how many of us deal with setting certain boundaries. When it comes to getting clear on and standing up for who we are and what we need, we timidly knock on the door, if we even show up to knock at all. Then we slink off and curl up into a ball of our self-imposed suffering, like a little kid who's scared of getting scolded, or who doesn't want to upset anyone, or who just is generally afraid of being seen, singled out, or judged. We opt for, "No, that's fine." Ignore the gigantic stack of work on my desk. "What can I do for you?" And leave our own needs lying in the street, crying out for help. Charles ended up being fine and still speaks to me, by the way. Personal boundaries define where you end and the outside world begins. Having healthy boundaries means owning your actions, emotions, and needs, as well as not owning the actions, emotions, and needs of others. You are responsible to other people. You are not responsible for other people. Big difference. Just as our skin is the boundary that defines our physical bodies, the walls of our home define our living spaces, and 15 items or less at the grocery store means 15 items, people, not 20. We have personal boundaries that need to be clearly defined and respected as well. For example, we need to be able to decline invitations we don't want to accept, to confront people who make comments that cause us discomfort, and tell our boss to stop parking in our parking spot already. We need to ask for help when we need it, to lose the expectation that other people will fix our problems, and to quit bailing out our financially irresponsible sister every time she goes on a shopping bender and can't afford her rent. If we don't set our own clear and healthy boundaries, we spill out and become messy, murky blobs, intertwining our needs, roles, and identities with those of the people around us. Healthy boundaries are especially critical when it comes to creating new habits, because in order to stay the course, you can't afford to have your time structured by outside forces, your beliefs swayed by naysayers, or your attention consumed by your often unconscious need to control those around you. Your guilt, shame, and shoulds cannot run the show. Habitually setting good boundaries lays the groundwork for all other habits. If you're developing the habit of becoming a better manager at work, for example, you need to create solid boundaries by articulating your expectations, laying down clear guidelines, allowing your employees the space to flourish without hovering over them and micromanaging, and being neither a friend nor a tyrant to those you manage. If you're getting into the habit of not eating meat, you need to ask your friends to meet at restaurants with good vegetarian options. Take time to learn new meat-free recipes and inform unamused dinner party hosts that you don't eat animals. If you're going to regularly do Tai Chi, you need to give yourself all the time you need to honor your practice. You need to surround yourself with encouraging people to develop the dedication to keep showing up. And you need to focus on yourself and your craft so you can move in slow motion without falling over or asleep. Your habits define who you're being. Your boundaries define the space you require in order to be who you're being. To help your game with your new habit, take a minute to think about how well you respect and whether or not you're even aware of your own boundaries and the limits that other people set. Here are some common areas where boundaries come into play and some examples to help spark self-reflection. If you have questions regarding the book, yes. If you have yes/no questions, I don't answer those in the morning. So, welcome in, DJ. All right. Here are some examples to help spark your self-reflection. The bod. If you don't like being touched by strangers and a yoga teacher comes over to adjust your pose, do you ask her to please stop? Do you move away? Do you slap her on the wrist? Or do you say nothing and hope she backs off soon? What are your boundaries when it comes to sex? The food you eat, the exercise you do, the clothes you wear, and the conversations you have about your body and about bodies in general. How do you respond to people who say hello by kissing you on the lips? Are you one of them? How aware are you of other people's body language? Do you automatically go in for a hug when you meet someone, or do you tune into what they're up for first? Do you raise a disapproving eyebrow when your daughter, whom you consider to be overweight, helps herself to a second donut? Do you encourage her to eat that donut? Do you make fun of her? Do you leave her alone? Do you notice? And then we have stuff. Which of your possessions are off limits to others, and which do you share freely? Are you a tidy or messy in your own home? And how do you behave in the homes of others? Do you live by the old adage, ask for forgiveness, not permission? And help yourself to the apples on your neighbor's apple tree? The clothes in your sister's closet? Office supplies from the storage room at work? Or your spouse's toothbrush when you accidentally leave yours behind on a trip? How would you respond, if at all, if the tables were turned and people didn't ask for your permission from you? I don't do yes/no questions in the morning. Beliefs are your beliefs easily swayed by beliefs of the people around you or by the media? Are your beliefs easily swayed by beliefs of others or around you or by the media? And words today. Are you fairly solid in your beliefs, yet still open to hear another's point of view? Do you think people who disagree with you are morons, or that they are smarter than you, or that they're just different from you? Do you question your beliefs or the beliefs of others? Is it important to you that in every confrontation someone is right and someone is wrong? Or can you hold space for the possibility that there may be more than one right answer? Will you fight to the death to be right about the fact that it was your husband, not you, who left the car window open in the rainstorm last week, even though you're actually not so sure it wasn't you now that you think about it? Can you admit when you're wrong? Do you need everyone within shouting distance to know you were right when you're right? Do you refuse to hear anyone out and never consider the other side of things? Does anyone actually admit to any of this? Next, we have behavior. Do you go with the flow and behave however you feel in the moment, oblivious to how it affects others? Do you limit your behavior, constantly apologize, shrink down, and speak in barely audible whispers so as not to make waves or disturb others? Do you take a stand if someone is being inconsiderate, bullying, making racist jokes, or talking loudly during a movie? Or do you stay silent or complain about them behind their backs? Do you foist unsolicited ideas, books, fashion suggestions, job opportunities, and blind dates on others because you see such potential in them? How do you respond, if at all, to unsolicited advice? Rude remarks, a helping hand. Do you try to do everything yourself? Do you try to get others to do everything for you? Do you blame other people, society, or your parents for your boring job, your terrible taste in partners, your empty bank account, your fear of flying? Do you communicate clearly, drop hints, think before you speak, blurt it out, or hold it in until you explode/grow a tumor? Hello, baby. How are you? Good morning. I don't answer yes/no questions in the morning. Space. Are you a bed hog or a road hog? Do you sit with your legs spread wide apart or on a crowded subway? What do you do, if anything, when confronted with people who are and do? I'm good. We're reading from Badass Habits from Jen Sincero this morning. So we do this every morning. We do a little snippet out of the book, a chapter out of the book, to help give us motivation each day. So we're developing some badass habits now. Yeah, this whole chapter is a bunch of homework. Yeah, it's really like diving deep into like being honest with yourself about how you truly are. Do you hold your boundaries strong, or do you let some things in or all things in? It's incredible when you really think about it, because and then you have to ask yourself, well, do I believe that's okay? Or do I feel like I should be stronger at it? And it really, I mean, just in each section is a bunch of questions about, your boundaries on that. All right. So with space, are you a bed hog or a road hog? Do you sit with your legs spread wide apart on a crowded subway? What do you do, if anything, when confronted with people who are and do? Do you sit with barely even one cheek on the couch to take up less room? Are you aware of the space you take up? Do you give yourself and others room to work, room to think, room to create, room to feel? Do you guard your privacy and respect the privacy of others? Next is emotions. Do you empathize with others, over empathize with others, and take on their pain as your own? Or do you feel nothing when it ain't your problem? Do you have screaming matches in airports with ticket agents who can't find your reservation? Do you calmly discuss the problem, or do you burst into tears of frustration? Do you bottle up your feelings, share them with only those closest to you, or try not to feel them at all? Do you act impulsively on how you feel, or let your emotions run their course before making a decision? And how do you respond, if at all? To people who process differently than you do. Do you adjust behavior if someone around you is in a bad mood, a good mood, a sad mood? And or do you expect everyone to meet you where you are at emotionally? Are you aware of other people's moods? Do you try to fix other people's bad moods? Time. Do you respect your time and others by being punctual? Do you refuse to suffer those who waste your time? Do you take the time to read your neighbor's entire book about the local flora and fauna against your will? Or do you tell her that you're too busy? Do you take guilt-free alone time for yourself? Do you complain that you can't find the time to do whatever you want to do? Do you make time? Do you waste time? I mean, my goodness, you are so right, Indigo. It is just like, we could probably do a whole week on this chapter just by going into these questions and asking ourselves and being honest with ourselves. That alone is a deep dive. So next is availability. Do you make yourself available for intimacy, friendships, success, fun? Do you make yourself available for verbal abuse, negative energy, toxic relationships, the unappealing whims of others? Do you listen to your friend complain about her job for the 500th time? Or do you tell her you can't hear it anymore and to get her act together, or tell it to someone else? Do you let people you don't like into your life /home/book group because you don't want them to feel bad or make a scene? Are you more available for the needs of others than your own needs? Are you aware of the needs of others? Have a great day, DJ. Thanks for stopping in. Next is energy. Do you eat food, listen to music, participate in activities, hang out with people who give you energy or deplete your energy? Do you disengage from people and activities that drain you? Or do you suck it up and power through, or find some happy medium? Do you pay attention to who and what affects your energy? What do you bring to the party in the energy department? That's the whole section of all those questions. I think one thing I might do with that is break those up into little videos too, to really, focus on each day and see if anybody responds to that. I think we all need to be kind of more aware of where we are and where we can adjust. We first learn about boundaries as a child. As children, sorry. We test the waters with people around us. see how it goes and base our understanding of how things are after years of studying the results we witness. Yeah, each category as a self-study, yes. If we say no to giving Aunt Lauren a kiss, are our wishes heard and respected? Do we get ignored and lifted up to her cheek for a smooch against our will? Or do we get punished and sent to our rooms? When we do what we're told and go get ready for bed, are we rewarded with a story? Do we get yelled at for taking too long? Or are we left upstairs by ourselves for hours? When we test our new snappy comeback we learned from the big kids on the bus and call mom a fucking bitch next time she asks us to clean up her toys, we gain all sorts of valuable information from her response, even though we may still have no idea what the hell we just said. Our little brains take in all the information we get and then form truths about which boundaries will best protect us and get us what we need. I'm treated like a bad, mean person when I say no, so I'm never going to say that again. Or Dad is always angry and tired when he comes home from work, so being quiet, needing nothing, and not being seen is the way to avoid getting yelled at. We may go on and spend the rest of our lives suffering from bad boundaries we formed based on these outdated truths. We don't realize that what we've assumed to be simple facts of life are actually just perceptions of reality formed through our own experiences, and that many of these experiences took place during a time when we hadn't yet learned to speak in full sentences and thought that sticking peas up our nose was a great idea. Luckily, there's another option, one in which we wake up and realize that we can choose to question our beliefs rather than spend our lives blindly playing victim to the ones that no longer work for us. I'm always the one in our group of friends who organizes dinner parties, plans camping trips, gets tickets to concert, navigates cancellations, rearranges things when people's schedules change, and guess what? I'm exhausted and grouchy. I caught myself fantasizing about collapsing in Costco, being hauled out on a stretcher, and everybody having to take care of me for a change. Shouldn't I be fantasizing about lying on a beach somewhere maintaining snacks? Or mainlining snacks, I'm sorry. Why do I feel like if I ask for help, I'm a bad person? Is that true? Good morning, Lindsay. As we move through life and uncover these cranky old truths, we can unhook ourselves from them, shift our focus onto beliefs that support who we're becoming, and empower ourselves to create the boundaries we need to grow. Denying my needs is a drag. I'm going to stop acting like I'll be punished by Daddy for speaking up. Stop pretending I can do everything myself and ask for some damn help around here. What we choose to believe is true or not true dictates the boundaries we do or don't set. Whew. My goodness. This is a big chapter too. Holy crap. It's a huge, huge chapter. And also just really dense with energy. I'm going to read as much as I can and see if we can finish it today. But I think next week, what I might do is chunk this up a little bit, this chapter in particular. Because I think there's so much here that really needs dived into. So we might just focus on one or two of the sections we just read, about the boundaries, and ask ourselves and be a little bit more interactive. So that way, we all kind of feel like we're getting something from this. Because I feel like I'm just reading through this and they're important questions, and it's important, to really explore this. Okay. Whether or not we're aware of it, we're always making choices about setting healthy boundaries, setting unhealthy boundaries, or setting no boundaries at all. Depending on our upbringing, how evolved we are, the situation and how many cocktails we've had. We either stand up for our needs and the needs of others, or we throw our and everyone else's needs under the bus. We've got countless cringeworthy stories and creative ways in which we've dropped the ball, but for the most part, our boundary issues fall into one of three categories. The three common types of boundary bunglery. 1. Too yesy. We say yes to everything because we want to avoid confrontation, disappointing others, appearing selfish, or missing out on the chance to feel needed and important. Too much no is the next one. We say no to everything for fear of being seen, disappointed, disappointing, judged, inadequate, needy, or hurt. We put up a wall to hide behind, as opposed to creating a boundary that allows us to fully flourish. And number 3, we're too controlly. We try to control other people, get them to take on our problems, and or become overly involved with their problems. We seek out those who will enable us and or become enablers ourselves because we don't want to fix our own lives. We want to feel in control, needed, loved, and not alone. Most of us participate in a bit of all these behaviors to some degree, depending on our own issues, the circumstances, and who happens to be the lucky navigator of our bad boundaries at the moment. For example, we may say yes to all of the things that our boss asks us to do that are outside of our job description, to the point of exhaustion and resentment. We may say no to invitations to parties and blind dates to avoid awkwardness and rejection. And we may be controlly with our kids by getting involved in areas of their lives that are none of our business. I got rid of those black clunky boots that you've worn to death, and you've got something a little more feminine. One of the premier causes of unnecessary drama is bad boundaries. Having bad boundaries doesn't make us bad people. It just makes us regular old people who are trying to avoid feeling pain and isolation by behaving in ways that ultimately cause us to feel the very pain and isolation we're trying to avoid. Joke's on us. The excellent news is that you simply need to become aware of where and when your boundaries aren't so great. Make the conscious decision to upgrade them, regardless of how uncomfortable and or scary it may be. And take back some control of your own life. Take back some control. Ain't nobody ever gonna be perfect or completely in control of anything, but we can certainly improve the quality of our lives by getting better at making smarter choices. Here's where we get confused when it comes to boundaries. We want to be nice, to bring joy to others, to be good, helpful, agreeable, compassionate, popular people. And we think that compromising our boundaries is the best way to meet those most needs. We mistakenly perceive boundaries to be bad, mean unbending barriers that keep others out. We fear that setting a boundary means we're cutting ourselves off from others, delivering an ultimatum, putting up a wall, being demanding, controlling, rigid, and worst of all, selfish. Meanwhile, clearly defining who you are and what you're available for isn't selfish, but rather it's self-ish. For example, telling your teenagers that they're unauthorized to disturb you unless it involves the police during the 30 minutes you've set aside to read and meditate every afternoon is indeed self-serving, but it also benefits your kids. By setting a boundary and taking time for yourself, your children not only get a more relaxed, attentive mother who values herself, but also an excellent model for how to set good boundaries themselves, and much needed practice respecting the boundaries of others. Think about what a relief it is when someone tells you exactly what's on their mind, what they need, and what they're available for. Even if the boundary they set isn't the most convenient or beneficial to your own needs, knowing where they stand beats the hell out of trying to read their mind, walking around on eggshells, or trying to figure out if their evening performance of slamming drawers and silently moving their mashed potatoes around on their plate is about something you did or said or even about you at all. Good, clear boundaries are a gift to everyone. Resentment, exhaustion, guilt, obligation, and passive aggressiveness are gifts to no one. The problem is that quite often, when we bravely take a stand and declare that we are no longer available to make dinner every night of the week because we now have choir practice, people don't exactly pick up quickly on the gift aspect of the new boundary we've set, especially the people we care about the most. Over the course of the nearly 10 years that I've been speaking on the topic of badassery, rarely do I get through a Q&A without this question rearing its head. What do you do when the people closest to you don't support who you're becoming? The reason this question is so common is that when you change who you're being, which involves developing new habits and boundaries, your transformations often upset those closest to you because she's got a whole bunch of reasons here. And I don't know if anybody here is experiencing this, but when you really are trying to launch something or take something, take something up off the ground, you're gonna have a lot of people resist this, especially those in your own household. You guys have seen it. You've seen it all my lives many times, even this morning. So it's important that you hold your boundaries firm. I have her. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's almost unavoidable. It really is, because it's a disruption to what they're used to, right? And it's not, I mean, it's not that they're bad in general so many times, right? It's just, it's a disruption and something to get used to. But they will, but you have to stand firm. And if it's something that they don't like, they have to adjust it within yourself. You don't have to make things more convenient for them to feel better, right? We need to focus on what it is that we're actively seeking, what we're actively doing. And because at the end of the day, if you keep bending those boundaries, it's just going to keep happening. You're just entering that cycle of, well, I can't do this because it upsets so and so, and it makes my life difficult. Well, your life's going to be difficult for a little bit. Sometimes that's just the way it is. But what's important to you, again, she said it in many books, right? When it's important to you, you'll find a way. When it's not, you'll find an excuse. And allowing others' boundaries and other people bending your boundaries becomes more important. It's not important to you. They don't want to change along sometimes, but if they wanted to see you succeed, they will. Right. Or at least respect it. Like, there's, in this example, there's no difference than me having a quote-unquote real job, right? I have to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have to be present, right? Or I have to be there at 8 o'clock at night. That's, if this was an employer, I would have to show up. So don't be upset when I am showing up for what I have put on my schedule. So, you have to stand strong. They are going to throw temper tantrums, hissy fits, whatever the case may be. But the stronger you stand within yourself, that it's going to be accepted. But there is always pushback in the beginning. Always. So number 1, they no longer get to be right about who you're being. And as we know, since they are human, they love to be right. If and when they understand and accept the new you, they get to be right again and will feel better about the whole thing. If they never understand and accept the new you, they will act out. And she says, see below. Number 2, you've gone from a known entity to a new unknown entity, and people fear the unknown with the same zest they have for being right. On a primal level, the new you changes an aspect of their reality. And what if they perceive to be real is now not real? It's upsetting. It also suggests the more things about their reality could slip away. If my best drinking buddy no longer drinks and has a boundary about no booze being allowed in her house, what, dear God, what other things that I rely on are going to disappear? Number 3, you're showing them that change is possible. You're basically giving them unsolicited advice simply by being, if I can be better myself, so can you. If they're not available to receive this information, if they prefer to cling to the familiar things in their lives that aren't bringing them a whole lot of joy, instead of making the changes they know they need to make, they're going to be grouchy and perhaps snarky around the new you. Number 4, in order to shift who you're being and own the new you, you have to basically kill off your old identity. And people get unpleasant when you kill the people they love. This is why, should you decide to take your job more seriously and start dressing more professionally, Joe at the deli, whom you hardly know, will give you a high five and a looking good when he sees you on your lunch break. And people who allegedly love you, your spouse, parents, bestie, might say things like, "Look at you, Mr. Fancy Pants. You too good for us now?" Heard that one before. Number 5. If you've been terrible at setting boundaries your whole life and suddenly start sticking up for your fine self and your needs, some people will be disappointed, knocked out of first place, deprived of their doormat, servant, chef, chauffeur, and might whine, plead, call you selfish, and explain that they will perish if you stop doing everything for them. That's a popular one. It really is. The people closest to you have the most to lose by losing you. So they are the most resistant to you changing. To express their disappointment and fear, almost all of which is happening on a subconscious level that they're unaware of, by the way. The people in your inner circle might make fun of you, worry about you, list all the reasons why your big plans won't work, tell you you're no fun anymore, in extreme cases, stop speaking to you. There will, of course, also be people close to you who cheer you on and or get inspired to upgrade their own lives thanks to your fine example. But the likelihood of those you love having a big old freak out bears noting, because it's one of the main reasons we refuse to change the habits we want to change and set the boundaries we need to set in order to change them. Changing your habits and your boundaries take courage, audacity, and a whole lot of self-love. Because we're uninterested in denying ourselves the things and experiences that light us up, for fear of making others uncomfy, we're going to get really good at setting boundaries. In order to help you create excellent boundaries that benefit you, give your new habit the space it needs to take root and help you connect more authentically with the people in your world. Let's break down the 3 common types of boundary bunglery. Whew, it's going to be another big one. All right, number 1. Too yesy plus any kind of even gentle confrontation equals saying yes when you want to say no. Constantly saying yes when you'd really love to say no is the most famous boundary problem. It's the way many people try to win love and acceptance, and it's especially common in women, thanks to the patriarchal society in which we're raised, which teaches us it's not ladylike to take a stand for ourselves and our needs or to put ourselves first. We're just going to go ahead and say a hearty hell no and a fuck you very much to the memo from the patriarchy. Okay? Here's what a yes when you want to say no boundary looks like. Imagine you're shopping with a friend and she's trying on a pile of dresses for a work event. You've spent a couple hours with her already, but need to get home because tonight your ex has the kids, and it's the only night that you've got time to pick up a fabulous dinner, take a bath, give yourself a facial, unwind, and watch a movie. You've been fantasizing about your night alone because you've been taking care of your family and working your ass off all week. But you let your friend talk you into staying with her in spite of yourself. Literally. She says things like, I helped you pick out a dress for your brother's wedding. You're so much better at knowing what looks good on me than I am. This event is really important to me. I really need you right now. It'll only take 10 minutes, I swear. She lays on a thick, gooey layer of guilt, and before you know it, you've taken on her need to have a shopping buddy instead of holding the space for your own need to get home and pamper yourself. Thanks to your bad boundary, you wind up spending another hour or two at the store, get home, shove some food down your throat, and pass out, angry at her and angry at yourself with woefully unexfoliated skin. Meanwhile, you could have set a boundary, told her what a great time you had, that you can't wait to see which dress she winds up with, but that you have to get home early, and that's what you're doing. Setting this boundary makes her feelings and reactions her responsibility, not yours. Yeah, big call out. This boundary reminds you and her, even if she can't admit it or recognize it, that it's her choice and really none of your business whether she chooses to be 1, disappointed and or angry, 2, impressed and inspired by your clarity and dedication to self-care, 3, grateful for the time that she did get to hang out with you, or 4, some combination of the above. Here are some best ways to turn your unwanted yes into a no when you need to. Sure. Yeah. First, take stock of your needs. Think about a new habit you'd like to bring into your life and get clear on some boundaries you need to put into place to support this habit. For example, if you're getting into the habit of recording a podcast about your favorite bands every week, you need time to do your research. Get all the technical aspects rolling, perhaps hire a producer or tech person, set up a studio, and make the recording. The main new boundary you're going to have to put in place will most likely be around protecting your time. Meaning you'll perhaps have to start saying no to some of the demands of your family. Always doing the grocery shopping, being readily available to drive your kids to the mall, listening to your adorable yet long-winded husband's stories about slush mouths stand from work. You may also have to say no to your friends. Opt out of a regular lunch date with the girls or cut down on chatting on the phone. Hello. Then there are boundaries you need to set for yourself, like saying no to wasting time on social media and looking at pictures of baby animals online, and generally getting good at organizing your time better. You're also going to have to toss some no's at your self-sabotaging thoughts, like, who the hell am I to have a podcast and a voice? You have to say no to your fears of sounding like an idiot in front of an online sea of strangers. No to worrying that no one will show up to be a guest on your show, and no to your fear that you'll give up on your podcast after the first few weeks. You'll also have to say no to friends who suggest you interview their favorite sucky bands, and no to sucky bands that want to be on your show. Baby animals are so cute. Taking a moment to figure out ahead of time where the difficult no's are going to occur will help you be prepared instead of caught off guard when the need to say no shows up, which will help you stand your ground. Next, you need to deal with your fear. Chances are excellent that some sort of fear will rear its head when you take stock of your needs and the no's they require. Otherwise, you most likely wouldn't have been yesing those no's all along. An excellent way to diffuse your fear is to break it down. Get into specifics of what your fear is. I'm scared if I tell my friend Mary that I won't put her favorite pan flute band on my podcast, she'll get mad at me. Then what? Then I'll feel guilty. Then what? Then it'll be weird between us. Then what? Then I guess she'll eventually get over it, or she won't. Then what? Then we'll either go back to being friends or she'll never speak to me again. Then what? Then either way, I get back to living my life. Good morning, Brittany. The exercise of dismantling your fear is almost always very anticlimactic and usually kind of embarrassing because you realize that if Mary gets over her disappointment, your fears are basically unfounded. And if she chooses never to speak to you again because you're making healthy choices about something that's ultimately none of her business, and it's honestly so not a big deal, she's not really that kind of person you want to be friends with anyways. Brittany, this chapter is super big, super informative. We're going to actually go through it, probably this whole chapter again all next week, and breaking it up in bits because there's a lot of questions and this is all about boundaries and it's a good one, but we have to get real with ourselves. So I'm trying to finish it today. I think I still have like 20 pages. So, but we're going to break this down next week. I also want to mention here that if you feel like your fears are too much for you to overcome, if they have real debilitating power over you, get your butt into therapy. Some of our boundary issues run incredibly deep. And because you're not screwing around about this changing your life thing, if you're having trouble dealing with something that's holding you back, going to therapy is some of the most important work you can do. Yeah, this is, like I said, Linz, this is a big chapter. We had some disruption this morning. I don't think I started till 8:30, and I just started reading just the chapter at 8:30. And like I said, I think I have like 20 more pages. But we're going to chunk this down and redo this chapter all next week. It's a big chapter, and it's an important chapter. So, fear not, ladies. Fear not. Okay, next you need to own your no's. Saying yes when you want to say no is a habit like any other. So start identifying as someone who says no easily. See yourself as someone who takes a stand, as someone who values your own needs, as someone who is more scared of living an inauthentic life that's getting yelled at than getting yelled at. Yeah, Friday the 13th. It's Friday the 13th. So... And, Mars retrograde is finally going direct. Mars is going direct, and Murky Lemonade is still in effect. So, it's fun. When you say no to the needs of others, you're being nice to yourself, not mean to them. Yes, we all have to make compromises in our relationships. But there's a difference between compromising and constantly letting yourself down. You can take care of people you love and take care of yourself. And when you say yes all the time, you're leaving yourself in the dust and often enabling their bad behavior. Good boundaries are all about self-love. Be the kind of person who loves yourself and who loves others, and you will find that saying no will start to make you feel powerful, not guilty. Next, know who trips you up the most. We all have people in our lives we have a hard time saying no to, even when we desperately want to. Get clear on the people who excel at winning arguments, laying on guilt, tugging at your heart, and scaring the hell out of you, so you can brace yourself and have your firm, no-nonsense no at the ready when they push back. Next, practice in a safe space. Practice saying no to things that aren't terribly loaded for you. Say no to the lady at the perfume counter who wants to spray you. Say no to your nosy neighbor next time she invites you over for cocktails and a complaint sesh about the Campbells across the street. Say no to helping the PTA with their annual fundraiser. Say no to the sales lady who brings a stack of shirts to your dressing room that she thinks will look great on you. Just say no. It's fun. Extra points if you refrain from apologizing. Next, learn the language of no. Getting your no on is all about clarity, kindness, speed, consistency, and commitment. No is a simple short word. It's not a full of long drawn out explanation, justifications, apologies, emotions, excuses, and backpedaling. Here are some general rules to saying a real good no. Make it all about you, not them. It's not you need to talk on the phone way too much. I can't take it. Who the hell has that kind of time? But rather, I need to limit my phone time because I'm getting really busy. So I can only talk to you once a week. Keep the emotion out of it. Don't try to second guess what they're thinking or worry that they'll get upset. You are responsible for your end of the conversation. And if they get upset, that's their work, not yours. Next, use direct language that gets straight to the point, such as, please call before you come over. Thanks so much for coming to my party, but I'm going to bed now, so y'all need to skedaddle. I'm not comfortable hugging strangers, but it's nice to meet you. And the classic, no thanks. Powerful no-type phrases often begin with, I need X, I won't X, I can't X, I don't like X, I'm not going to X, I appreciate it if X. Next, give yourself a cushion. Because you will be caught off guard sometimes, and because getting good at saying no is a new muscle that you're strengthening, if you're feeling nervous or flustered and a nice squishy yes seems like the easiest way out, whip out and I can't decide right now, or let me think about it, or let me check my schedule and get back to you, instead of expecting yourself to be the master of no right out the gate. Keep phrases like this at the ready to give yourself time to pause so you can break the habit of agreeing to stuff immediately in order to escape your discomfort. Number 2 is too much no plus any concept or idea that makes you uncomfortable equals saying no when it would serve you best to say yes. Woo! My mom is hilarious. She is the type of person who can whittle a joke out of any situation, no matter how grim or heartwarming or dull it may be. For example, one stunning spring afternoon, Mom and I sat in the garden watching the birds twitter about, luxuriating in the warm breeze, enveloped in a miraculous sea of flowers in bloom. We sat in silent reverence, taking it all in, completely overcome by peace and beauty and gratitude, or so I thought, until Mom broke the spell with, I'd hate to be a bird. You'd have to build a house with your face. Mom's full of doozies, but like many people, she also hides behind her humor to avoid pain and discomfort. She's always been swift at letting one rip when presented with a difficult conversation, or when she's feeling something she no wanna feel. Mom was raised well, but well-meaning yet rather hardcore wasps, who believe that showing emotion is to be avoided at all costs. But should you insist on letting one slip out, please, for God's sakes, do it in the other room. Thanks to the years of therapy and forcing my quivery little heart to open up, I've been able to stop participating in this family tradition of stonewalling my feelings. Yet, that being said, I'm no Olympian. I mean, I have friends who, in the middle of a crisis or a meltdown, pick up the phone and call me, sobbing so uncontrollably that they're barely able to breathe or speak as I stand on the other end of the phone, instantly frozen and dumbfounded, more shocked than if they'd shown up at my door, sporting nothing but a ponytail. These friends almost always call back, apologetic and embarrassed, but to me, this kind of vulnerability is staggering, courageous, and highly advanced. In other words, if you got a knack for the no, if you go it alone at all costs instead of reaching out for the help you need, I feel you. When we err on the side of saying no instead of yes, we're scared we'll push people away by letting them see what we consider to be our weak, broken, needy, burdensome sides. We don't want to risk being devastated by asking for love and getting rejected. We don't want to risk opening ourselves up to ridicule or finding ourselves smothered by other people's needs. We prefer to play it safe, to remain in control by keeping a tight grip on our emotions, our surroundings, and our hearts. We build walls out of, I'm good, I got it, I'm fine, as we carry an elephant, metaphorical and or literal, up a staircase by ourselves. Boundaries are not rigid walls. They breathe and move with complexities of life and the nuances of each situation. It took me forever to hire an assistant, a COO, and a bookkeeper for my business, even once I had money coming in, because I was fully entrenched in the habit of doing everything myself, and I didn't want to surrender control. I've also moved entire roomfuls of furniture by myself and once helped some friends plant their garden the day after breaking up with my boyfriend, opting to run to the bathroom and furtively sob and pretend I was grappling with a cold instead of letting them know I was unraveling. Getting older has worked wonders for my boundary setting prowess, and ever since hitting 50, I've noticed that saying yes, no, sounds like you've got a problem there. Get the hell off my lawn, whatever the situation calls for, comes to me much more easily. My dad, who lived to be 92, said it best. I don't know if you get older and wiser or older and just more tired. It's a long call out, yes. I think it's a bit of both. As we age, hopefully, gain wisdom through our many experiences dealing with our own BS and other people's, we also literally have less energy to tolerate the drama that comes with having bad boundaries. But fear not. You don't have to wait until you're walking around holding your sore hip all day to get good at setting awesome boundaries. You can get started right now. Become aware of what your patterns are. Practice slowing yourself down in situations where you're tempted to compromise the boundaries you truly need to set. And bravely step up and claim your space. When it comes to having a boundary issue of too much no, here are some good ways to break down your walls and let the yeses flow in and out. Take stock of your needs. If you're a person with too much no boundary, you most likely have trouble recognizing that you have needs at all. In order to unearth some specifics and discover some places where you may need to let down your walls, think of a habit you'd like to form and do this exercise in the context of whatever habit you choose. For example, let's say you're going to get into the habit of playing tennis 5 times a week. You obviously are going to have to put yourself out there and find other people to play with. And you're going to have to put yourself and all your bad shots on display on the court for all to see. If you want to improve your backhand, you'll need to ask a pro for lessons, or perhaps approach someone on a nearby court who's clearly got an amazing swing and ask them for tips. You'll have to say yes to showing up to play on the days when you don't feel like it. Good morning, Whiskey. In order not to let your partners down, you'll need to carve out time to play and might need to ask a friend to pick your kids up at school or ask your partner to meet the plumber at the house because you've got a game scheduled. Next, you need to deal with your fear. Here are some fears that might pop up around saying yes in the scenario above. If you ask people to play tennis with you, they may say no and you'll feel rejected. They may say yes and you may discover after playing with them a few times that they can't hit a ball over the net to save their lives, or that they're intolerable windbags and now you feel trapped. Or they may discover that you're not very good, or that they don't like you very much and you'll feel rejected. You may look stupid in front of other people when you hit a bad shot. You may lose your temper. And you may trip on the net in a mid-victory leap and never live it down. You may feel needy and annoying by asking your friend and your partner to help you out, and you may discover you think tennis is for the birds and be irritated that you wasted your time and money on checking it out. You need a nugget blanket this morning? Once you've got your list of fears, notice any that really hit home for you. For example, let's break down the fear that your new tennis partners discover that you're not very good. and they don't really like you. What if this is true? Then we probably have an awkward conversation where they tell me it's not working out, or I'll make an excuse to quit. Then what? Then I'll feel stupid and embarrassed. Then what? Then I guess I'll have to find other people to play with. Uncomfortable? Yes. The end of the world? No. Yet this discomfort has, so far, kept you caught in the pattern of no. So this next exercise about owning your yeses is really important. You need a Snuggie. Own your yeses. Saying no all the time has a lot to do with protecting your ego, being terrified of criticism, rejection, or being smothered, and fearing loss of control and love. The more you can identify as someone who doesn't take things personally, the easier it will be to let down your guard. See yourself as someone who laughs off being rejected or saddled with the task of having to inform an annoying tennis partner you found someone else who's a better fit. Lighten up. Realize that saying yes is how you get in on life, and that life is much more enjoyable when lived fully. Envision the word yes as light, fluffy, and bright, and the word no as dark, solitary, and heavy. Be grateful for all the ease and help and love and fun that yes will bring into your life, and start cracking yourself open. Know who trips you up the most. Which people do you have the hardest time opening up to and why? Get clear on the specifics. Break down any fears that come up and take baby steps putting yourself out there. For example, if you have a friend who's always looked up to you and you're scared to be vulnerable or weak in front of them because you don't want to disappoint them, start by sharing a small fear you have or a small problem and ask for their help. If there's someone you love who you fear will smother you with their neediness if you let them in at all, slowly open the gate, but only a crack at a time. For example, tell them you've only have 10 minutes to chat, but would love to hear about their latest breakup. Identify the people you're interested in moving closer to and come up with specific things you can ask of them or things you can do for them, and tiptoe your way into being more intimate. Next, practice in a safe space. Ask a stranger to hold the door open for you, or get in the habit of opening the door for others. Give an unexpected compliment to a good friend, or do an unasked for favor for your partner and notice how great it feels. Do many little yes type things as you can think of to rewire your brain and make it understand that yes means good. Learn the language of yes. Here I was thinking there was going to be an interesting story, right? Learn the language of yes. Learning the language of yes means really getting to know and recognize those moments when you will best be served by cracking open the protective shell around your heart and sharing. Learn to ask for help, advice, affection, and whatever else you need, and let others know you're there for them in return. Slow down, tune in, and be a great listener and a brave sharer of your own feelings. If you're going to learn how to say yes, you're going to have to embrace a little bit of cringy discomfort. Remember that while you're the star of your own life, you're a supporting cast member at best in other people's lives. Cry in front of the vet when they take Boots Rodriguez, your toothless old cat, into the back for a biopsy instead of swallowing your tidal wave of tears. They've seen people cry before. It's no big deal. Next, speak your mind and articulate your needs. Tell someone you love them when you're feeling verklempt. Admit you're scared, lonely, or could use a pal to look over your online dating profile, even though you're mortified about posting it in the first place. As much as you don't think you need to, learning to let love in and let your love out will help you free up everything that seems rigid or stuck in your life. Next, accept that communicating well is work. You're allowed to admit that it's hard for you to open up, so cut yourself some slack and trust that anyone who's worth being more intimate will cut you some slack too. The next one is too controlly, and the things people, situations you want to control or that want to control you equals a whole slew of murkiness, isolation, resentment, and bad behavior. Here we go. My sister Jill is 5 years younger than I am, and as in many big sister little sister relationships, she looked up to me, and I spent much of my time rolling my eyes and trying to shake her off my leg. Until I got hungry, that is. We used to play a game where I tell her, "Run downstairs, make me and my friend peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and grab us a couple glasses of milk while you're at it, and I'll time you. Let's see if you can beat your own record of 6 minutes and 27 seconds." Jill would tear off to the kitchen while my friend and I resumed playing dolls who work at the dentist office, only to be interrupted by Jill and our lunch many minutes later. I, of course, didn't bother to keep track of her time and made some random guess when presented with her eager, expectant, and, in guilt-ridden hindsight, very cute face. "Oh yeah, 6 minutes and 47 seconds. You came so close. I know you can beat it next time. Now, get out of my room." Controllers come in many forms. Some controllers manipulate people into doing stuff for them that they wouldn't normally do, by making it seem fun. Some are expert guilt trippers or seducers. Some excel at wearing people down until they give them what they want, and some are full-on bullies. Controllers generally don't give a hoot about other people's boundaries and have a lot of trouble hearing the word no, as in, they don't really hear it at all. Another fun form of exerting control is by inserting yourself inappropriately into the lives of others, by constantly offering unsolicited advice, spending more time on bettering their lives than you do on bettering your own, and or fully interloping your way into someone else's business. "I'm going to take care of my newly divorced best friend and her children, move in with them and cook for them, become indispensable, and then get super angry and resentful when she finds a new man and moves on." Take a moment to think about any ways in which you have not so great boundaries around control. Pay attention to the sneaky ways that control can mask itself as simply being helpful, as looking out for someone, or as being a good friend. Investigate the roles you play in other people's lives and start questioning your motives. Are you truly trying to help them? Are you inserting yourself to feel needed? Are you kind of obsessed? Listen to your intuition, and if it's telling you that someone in your life has gotten a little too close for comfort, trust that feeling. Start taking a deeper look at your actions and motives around control, and take a minute to notice how the actions of the people around you make you feel as we run through the exercise again. Because boundary issues around control are a bit different from the previous two we've worked through. I'm going to tweak this exercise slightly. Know who trips you up the most. Get mighty honest with yourself and think about the people in your life whom you try to control or whose lives are most gooey and mesh with yours. Is there a friend whom you check in with every day? Maybe even several times a day, whom you use as a platonic substitute for an intimate relationship? Is there anyone whom you constantly heap unsolicited advice onto and whom you spend an inordinate amount of time thinking about how to fix? Do you make your assistant do things like vacuum your office, answer snotty texts from your ex that you don't want to deal with, or other tasks outside their job description? Do you smother your kid with your emotional needs, making him or her, instead of a friend, spouse, or shrink, a sounding board for your loneliness, fears, marital problems, and regrets that you didn't experiment before in college? Next, take stock of your needs. What need are you attempting to meet by trying to fix other people's problems? Does it make you feel valuable, smart, seen, loved, or powerful? Are you focused on saving your friend's marriage because you can't face focusing on all the problems with yours? Does manipulating your neighbor into mowing your lawn after he's done mowing his make you feel connected to him and less isolated? What hole is your need to control attempting to fill? Next, deal with your fear. What fears come up when you imagine letting go of the needs you listed above? For example, let's say you backed off from being so involved in your friend's troubled marriage. You're still there for her, but you're no longer available to pick apart every text her husband sends her. You don't listen to her cavalcade of complaints night after night over a bottle of rosé, and you don't spend your free time researching hilarious cartoons about how stupid men are to send to her. Instead, you set a boundary and tell her you'll discuss solutions with her, but you'll no longer wallow in the complaining. Taking the focus off of her opens up new space for you to face your own life. What fears come up with that? Perhaps you've been putting off telling your spouse you want to quit your lucrative job as an attorney to become a full-time glassblower, and that you need him to pick up the tab for a while. Or maybe you're scared to admit that your marriage is joyless and that you need to end it. Or maybe you've got fears around not being valuable and needed and in control of someone else's life. Get clear on your fears. Go through the process of breaking them down and expose them as little pipsqueaks they really are. Next, own your surrender. Imagine yourself leaning back and watching the person you hover over most doing their thing without your input. Envision yourself as a relaxed, helpful, loved, valued person who happily helps when needed and who lets others learn lessons they need to learn on their own. See yourself as separate, whole, complete, loving person who is able to create whatever you desire in your own life. Next, learn the language of surrender. Recognizing and communicating from a place of surrender is all about coming from a place of trust instead of fear. Practice interrupting your impulse to fix, placate, call out, soapbox, push back against, or even agree with something. Take a breath, slow down, and keep things in mind as you learn to ease in the surrender state. The language of surrender is sometimes silence. Practice just listening instead of offering advice and suggestions. Get good at saying phrases like, "Do you need some help? How can I best support you? Do you want ideas, or are you just looking for someone to listen? Thanks for your offer to help, but I think this is something I need to do on my own, and I'm happy to help with X, but I can't help with Y." Learn to speak with and listen to more than just voices. Pay attention to the body language and the verbal language of someone saying back off, no thanks, mind your own fucking business, and then do as asked. The better you get at setting healthy boundaries of your own and respecting the boundaries of others, the more easy, successful, and joyful your life and everyone else's will be. As we embark on creating this new habit of yours, being able to identify, whip out, and masterfully set into place whatever boundary you require will help you cultivate the staying power that may have eluded you in your habit attempts in the past. Badass boundaries are every habit superhero's secret weapon. Alright, so we got the success story, and then we're done for the day. Finally. That was big. Quit being energetically triggered by others. This is from Jim, who's 45. I have to deal with an intense, aggressive person on a regular basis, and he triggers the hell out of me. I really wanted to get some control over myself, to not take the bait, and to not get all worked up. So I decided to make a habit of staying aware and remembering to take a beat when I feel this guy launching. I think to myself, this person is getting squirrely. Let him, but don't participate in that squirrel factor. It's easy when his intensity isn't directed at me, because it doesn't feel like an attack, and therefore I don't have the fight or flight response. When it does become personal, which it has, I have to really work hard at finding inner calm and resetting my reaction. Very hard to do, as my inclination is to top his intensity with my own. But the awareness of that involuntary response of wanting to fight back is what actually stops me from doing so. That's my trigger. Use the negative urge to react as a positive trigger. When you feel yourself getting worked up, use it as a reminder to pause, take a breath, and make a better choice. The trigger reminds me that I'm in control of my responses and to be thoughtful about them. I feel myself getting jittery, my hands get very cold, and my body gets tight, all at the same time. And that physical discomfort causes me to have a quick internal monologue. I remind myself to calm down, to slow my breathing, to counter the adrenaline rush. I recognize the feelings I'm having and I let myself disapprove of how that person is making me feel. But I don't get entangled by the way I feel. Then I think about how the next words out of my face are going to have an effect. And what do I want that effect to ultimately be? Which is to make me feel well and whole, but also to be heard and respected. After the interaction is over, I feel solid and empowered, whereas in the past I would be all jacked up and upset for hours. I don't feel like this is passivity or acquiescence, but rather strength, because I'm self-aware and making evolved, difficult, positive choices in the picosecond that this is all happening. Whew. So that was definitely a big one. That was 40 pages. Yeah, that was 40 pages. So we are definitely going to chunk this up for a bit next week, so we can really like focus on parts of it. I mean, it took me an hour and 15 minutes to read that. So we'll chunk it up so that way we can really focus on those questions, noticing where we need to set boundaries, where we might need to lessen them if we're, one of those people who say no all the time regardless. And how to, start creating strong, healthy boundaries, and really putting that into action. It was brutally emotional for you. Oh man. So you had a whole day of call out. Is that what you're saying? The whole day was call out for you? Oh man, take my lighter. I swear to God. I shall beat him. Oh, there it is. Yep. Yeah. Well, and to be honest, Christy, too, like, I think, if I remember correctly, like, you are just really starting, like, your awakening, your spiritual journey, or your self journey, and you realize when you wake up just how, well, at least for me, I realized how much of a doormat I was. And I still have to fight that, because I was that people pleaser. I was that person who wanted everybody to be happy. That I didn't even put myself on the back burner. I wasn't even on the stove at all. I was still in a freezer. Yeah, so, it gets easier, but I'm glad that you're here with us while we've done this for, I mean, you've been here for a while, and because this will help you, and you have this whole community here to help you through it too. I mean, that's why we're here. We want to help one another get through this and to really, stand firm in themselves and know who they are. So, and that's part of what, I mean, a lot of what I've learned from the Badass books is going to be in the Badass boot camp that I'm doing too. So, it's not solely based on the Badass books, but it's going to be a lot based on what I've learned through them. But but yeah, I mean, when you really take a look at yourself and you see where you either lack boundaries or you may have an over boundary, it gets really,
I just got pulled over.
Did you really?
Yeah, fucking car down there. Got pulled over by the sheriff's, but, you going live or something?
Yeah. I'm about to hang up, so.
Yeah, almost.
Alright, guys. I'm gonna go. Apparently we're gonna have this type of day. So.
Yeah, it's Friday the 13th. Woohoo!
Alright.
Me.
Alright, guys. I'll talk to you later. I love you. Have a great day.
So he's like, go